Welcome to Life Lessons with Lindsay. Today and for the next couple of videos, I want to talk about relationships and how to navigate this sticky place where you might be in a friendship or relationship where you feel a little bit drained or exhausted, or you're sick of the same drama happening over and over again, or always apologizing and never getting something in return, or even eventually identifying which relationships you should hold on to and fight for and which relationships you should kind of let go. Now, before we get into the big topic of this video, which is boundaries, we're going to talk about the tool that I use, which I use it, but sometimes I have to relearn it when something happens. But it is called the Circle of Control. Now, I have a video out there somewhere, and if I remember, I'll post it here or here. I don't know where it goes. And it's going to talk about like the nitty-gritty details of the circle of control. But I want to focus on the circle of control when it comes to relationships, all right? So very briefly, you can worry about things you can't control, or you can worry about what you can control. All right, now things we can't control, like traffic and weather and ultimately politics for most of us. We can't actually do anything about them. But if we worry about them, if we stress about them, it just kind of makes us a little crazy. All right, but if we can focus on what we can do, what we can control, which ultimately is our actions and our effort, right? If we can focus on that, we can have this inner peace and a lot less stress. So how this works with relationships is that we have this outer circle, and because it's a relationship, it's technically our circle of influence, right? The way we speak to these people matters and it can influence them. But ultimately, this outer circle is, how people think, what people say, whether they change or not, whether they understand you or not, whether they apologize or not. All of these things are completely out of your control. Now, sometimes you can influence these people by how you treat them, but ultimately, they're going to choose whatever they want to choose. All right, so that's like our outer circle. Our inner circle, this is our power. This is what we can do, what we can control. And what are those things? Our actions, our words, our boundaries, and whether we commit and stay in that relationship or not. Now, most of our pain from relationships are because we are trying to control the outer circle. We're trying to force people to do and think what we want them to do and think. That's where our pain comes from, because we can't. We can say everything we want to say. We can express everything we feel, but we cannot control their thoughts and actions. And that's what causes us the most pain, because we just know if they would do what we want them to do and think how we want them to think, everyone and everything would be so happy. But it's so stressful to be in that position. So our goal is to focus on what we can control. And so this first video is going to be about boundaries, setting boundaries and putting things into place that you can control. Not what they can do, but what you can do. Now, sometimes I say the word boundaries and people go, ooh, They have these assumptions of what boundaries really are, okay? These assumptions are things like, boundaries are rude and mean. If I have boundaries, then I'm going to lose the friendship or the relationship. We hope that we just never will have to use boundaries because that person is just going to change and instantly know everything that's right. Or we think that being kind means that we must always say yes. All right, these are assumptions. They are not real. They're not true. If you set healthy, correct boundaries. But we can be kind and set boundaries. And the funny thing about boundaries is that they make your relationships healthier. and they help you feel less drained, less exhausted, and just more at peace with yourself. So, are you willing to let go of those assumptions and say, hey, I actually want to respect myself enough to have, peace and joy? So let's go. Let's talk about boundaries and how to set them. So first and foremost, healthy boundaries, again, I say healthy boundaries are calm, short statements, sentences that need no explanation. All right, they're calm. All right, you don't have to yell at someone to get it across. And you don't need to explain yourself. And when I get into the examples, this will become more clear. Next, these boundaries focus on what you can do yourself. It is not about forcing somebody else to do something or say anything. It is about what you are going to do in these situations. And lastly, boundaries are not a punishment for the other person, right? This is not a silent treatment or making somebody it's not revenge, okay? Boundaries should not hurt somebody else's heart in order to protect your own, okay? This is about a peaceful, calming way to handle situations. All right, so I'm gonna go through a bunch of situations, and if I don't hit yours, you're just gonna kind of have to either message me or, kind of navigate it. I think I have enough examples that you're gonna be able to correlate and make it work. All right, so the first circumstance is, let's say you have a friend or somebody who likes to gossip a lot, and you've kind of had it. It's a little bit draining. They're just always negative, all right? So we can't control them. We can't, and setting a boundary isn't telling them to stop either, all right? Because, who knows what's going on with them? You can't change them, right? So if the gossiping or the negative talk happens, you have a few statements that you can say. Say, oh, I don't want to talk about her right now. Or you can just leave the room, say, oh, I gotta go talk to my friend Lindsay really fast. I'll be back. Okay, or you can change topics. Just be like, oh my gosh, you have the cutest shoes on today, depending on who you're talking about, okay? So we are not telling them to change the way that they are. We are steering the conversation in a different direction. We are clearly stating, hey, I don't feel like talking about that right now. Let's talk about something else. Okay, you're gonna probably have to have topics in your back pocket to pull out and say, oh, hey, let's talk about this thing, right? Oh, let's talk about Lindsay's new video, whatever, okay? But it is in your control. You're not telling them to do anything. You are just taking control of the situation of how you want to go. And if it's not working, then you leave. You do not have to explain to them. You do not have to lecture them. You just say, oh, I have to go do this quick thing real fast. And use me as an excuse if you want to. Or not even the excuse. Just say, oh, I forgot to do this really fast. And you can go, watch my video and not be lying, right? You need to go do that. All right? That is setting a boundary. It is taking control and not forcing them to do anything. All right, another situation is when a friend only talks to you when they need something. I frankly am worried that I am this person, especially when I talk to my mom, I'm always calling, hey, can you pick up this kid? Can you pick up this kid? So I'm always worried about being that person because I don't like small talk. And so I have to be really conscious about forming conversations before I ask things to let them know that I love them and care about them. But anyway, so if you have this person in your life who just is always asking you for something and doesn't really return that affection or same kind of courtesy, then there are a couple of options that you can say back to them. Just make sure that, I don't know, you don't jump to this conclusion, have you tried? And then they're like, oh no, sorry, I'm too busy, right? They might be a person who just isn't very open. So just kind of be careful navigating this world. But what you can do is say things like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, I can't talk right now. I have to go do this thing. Or you can say something like, oh, I am so sorry this has happened to you. Good luck, right? You don't have to open yourself up to being the person who fixes and fixes the problem. And you don't have to open your schedule up if it's something that they're like, oh, I need this, I need this, I need this. You can just say, oh, I'm sorry, I'm busy. Like, if they get hurt, that's kind of like their own problem. Like, you didn't offend them. You didn't have this whole big lecture of like, you always do this, you never do this, right? It's just saying, oh, I'm sorry, I can't. Done, period, no explanation. And if you have someone in your life who demands an explanation, then you're going to want to watch my video in a couple weeks where we talk about, is this relationship good for you? Do you deserve this type of relationship? And you can set up a boundary right there, and you can use your parents as an excuse, you know, like me as an excuse. Oh, I already said I was helping my friend. Done. Okay. And if they keep demanding explanations, that's not what a good friend should do. All right, let's say you have a friend who keeps canceling on you. You make these plans, and then like last minute, they're like, oh, sorry, I can't, right? Once in a while, this is gonna happen. But if this is a consistent thing, there are lots of things you're gonna have to consider, you know, whether this relationship is good for you or not. But again, we'll talk about that later. But if you are kind of sick of, you know, bowing to the whims of this other person, you do not have to change them. You don't have to demand anything of them. You just need to stop scheduling around them. Like, give them opportunities. Say, hey, when you actually know your plans for sure, let me know, right? Don't just like wait around for the phone calls. Make your schedule. And if they call and you're busy, say, oh, sorry, I already made plans. And then they're going to get used to the fact that like, oh, I can't call them last minute. I've got to make plans if I truly want to hang out with them and be with them. This is scary, right? Because maybe you're relying on this person for a lot of your validation and just time to be with friends. And maybe you're going to have to learn how to branch out, right? You can't just revolve your entire schedule around one person. Right? You've got to make your own schedule, make your own life, have hobbies, have, you know, things that you are not willing to give up on the whims of them. So you're going to have to be brave to make sure that this boundary works for you. All right, let's talk about when somebody teases you. How do you set a boundary for that? Because you definitely can't control what they say, because if you could, you would have stopped them teasing you long ago. When somebody teases you, they usually just want your reaction. They think it's fun. It's like a game to them. So you can control your response by not responding. All right? If they tease you, you can look at them and say nothing. You can also say, what did you just say? And sometimes that kind of has them backpedaling and be like, oh, I just kidding, or whatever, right? And then they just sometimes can feel a little bit embarrassed because they realize what they said is rude. Or you can walk away. There's absolutely nothing wrong with walking away. And it doesn't mean that you're weak, okay? And I'm not saying that you should leave in a huff and be like, oh my gosh, blah, 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 blah. You can, you know, look at them. You can give them a nod and just leave, right? And maybe they're the type of person who's going to be like, oh, come on, don't leave, blah, blah, blah. You're such a child, da, 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 da. And all that's doing is making them look like a child, all right? You're walking away being the bigger person, all right? Because you're not going off gossiping about them, just how much you hate them and being bitter. You're just saying, hey, I don't want this. I don't have to put up with it. And I respect myself enough not to just sit here and be in your crap. All right? So again, you do it calmly, rationally, and just walk away. If you are in a position where somebody is upset and yelling, and you're getting upset, and maybe you're starting to want to yell, right? ways to set that boundary so you don't just yell, yell, yell and fight, fight, fight and make everything worse. You just say, I want to talk about this, but I need to calm down for a second. And then you get to step away. Some people, they won't let you, especially if it's like a parent. Don't you dare walk away from me, right? And then you just like kind of like put it on yourself a little bit. Be like, I want to do this. I want to finish this conversation, but I need to calm down before I say something that I'm going to regret, right? You don't like blame them or like, how dare you? You're the one, you're the problem, right? Because that's not going to help things. Just say, I need to take a break before we finish this conversation. Period. Get out of there. It might be hard sometimes with certain people, but eventually they'll get the picture and realize, oh yeah, having a calm conversation is way better than yelling at each other. All right, next thing. When a friend pressures you to do something. This is really big in junior high and high school, and I don't know, maybe further or not. It just depends on where you are and what you're doing. But this whole idea of like your friends going, oh, you should do that, you should do that, whatever, right? All you have to say, oh, no, that's okay. I'm good. That's not my style right now, right? Or I'm busy, I can't right now. There's lots of things you can say to that without being mean, without calling them out. You just have to say, no thanks. And then they're probably going to pressure you more. And then all you have to say is, no thanks. All right? And then if they get into like teasing or anything like that, we just talked about that, right? Leave the situation, change the subject. Move on. Do what you can't control. Next one, when somebody texts you nonstop, put your phone on silent. Put your phone on do not disturb. There are different modes on your do not disturb where you can put certain people that cannot disturb you. All right, give yourself some peace for a little bit and have an enjoyable evening without worrying about like, oh, I don't know how to respond to this. I don't want to respond to this. Why are they texting me? Right? Put your phone on do not disturb for that one person. They don't see it. It's like, do not disturb specifically for you, right? They will probably see the do not disturb thing, which gives them a clue of like, oh, they can't talk right now, so maybe I should shut up. All right. Also, those type of people, if you're not willing to put it on do not disturb, you have to be willing not to respond right away, right? They just keep coming because you keep responding. And so it's like kind of like that validation or even a dopamine hit, right? Like, oh yes, they're there, right? You don't have to be available 24/7. That's not what phones should be about. Phones should be convenient for you, not for another person. All right, I'm almost done with these examples. But the next one is when you're trying to fix someone, but they won't listen. They ask you for advice, and they never take it. They complain all the time, and you try to give them advice, and they won't take it. You've got to focus on what your circle of control is, and it's not them. You've said your piece. They know how you feel, and all you can say is, hey, I'm here for you, but I can't keep hearing about this over and over again. So I hope it goes well for you, right? That's a brave conversation, right? And it might sting them for a minute, but you've got to create this line of, I don't want to talk about this anymore. I've already told you how I feel, and that's it, right? Tell them that you love them, care for them, but you're not willing to talk about that topic anymore. Okay, and then switch topics. Don't go radio silent, because then they're going to think you're mad, right? Then just switch topics. See, I can talk about other things, and this is how it works. But it's super draining. I've had friends like this, where they like constantly ask my advice, but they don't actually like take it. And then the next day, they're like, oh my gosh, I didn't do what you said. So what do I do now? I'm like, oh, okay, right? I'll give you some advice if you want it, but clearly you don't want to take it. So why are you even asking me, right? We got to learn how to navigate to different topics. We do not have to have the conversations about that one or two topics, okay? We can navigate. We can control it by bringing up different topics and just saying, I'm not willing to talk about that right now. All right, my last example is when somebody makes you feel small or somebody makes you feel anxious. Like, you know you're about to hang out with them and spend time with them, and it makes you feel miserable. You make the boundary by not showing up. Don't make a plan. Just say you're busy. I can't, I have to study. I can't, I made plans. I'm sorry. You limit your contact. And the video we talk about, in 2 videos when we talk about how to end relationships when they're not good for you, this is a relationship that you are going to have to end. If they make you feel small, if they make you feel anxious or sad all the time, it is not a relationship for you. It is not good enough for you. We want relationships that help build us, that want us to be better, not with somebody who tears us down. Okay? Now, these boundaries, some of them seem scary. But if we say our statements, our sentences calmly, if they are a reasonable person themselves, they're going to be okay with these boundaries. Some of them might push back because there are people out there who refuse to have boundaries with others. Okay, again, question that relationship. But it's important for us. Is their happiness so much more important than yours? The answer should be no. Immediately, no. Your peace is not worth whatever they want or need. Okay? Now, we are not being rude to them. Okay? We're not hurting their hearts by any means. Okay? We're not being mean by creating these boundaries. We're just saying, I'm done. I can't talk about this anymore. I can't do this anymore. And they should be okay with that. If they're your good enough friend, they're going to realize that. And if they don't take it, if they don't respect it, you're going to have to do some evaluation of that relationship. So ultimately, creating boundaries is focusing on what you can control, not what you wish the other person would do. All right, if you are so focused on, oh, I wish they would do that, I wish they would say this, I wish that, okay, that is focusing on the outer circle, and that's not helpful. You're never going to get what you want, right? So you've got to change that mindset and go, okay, what can I do? Okay, I can do this. I can navigate different conversations. I can leave the room. I can tell them I'm busy when this person is coming around. You can't control those things. And so you have to be willing to. You have to be willing to protect yourself because nobody else will, even your best friend. Okay? It's okay to think about yourself and to be concerned about your peace. Because when we feel good about ourselves, when we feel peace, when we feel joy, our relationships do get better. Okay? Because we're not exhausted, we're not drained. We feel good, we feel energetic. And when we have that positive energy, man, that's when things click. That's when, life is more fun and enjoyable. So next week, I'm going to talk about conflict and how, there's conflict we have with people that boundaries aren't going to solve. And so we're going to talk about that and what our circle of control is when it comes to conflict, and if you're really concerned about the conflict or concerned about winning. And then the video after that, we are going to be talking about whether you should keep some of your relationships or not. Right? So this all kind of builds. So this week, try a boundary, right? And if those boundaries aren't working, then we're going to be talking about how to resolve conflict and accept conflict. And then if that doesn't work, then we'll talk about keeping or leaving relationships. And that was a life lesson with Lindsay. All right, guys, what now? Which relationships are draining you a little bit? And what can you focus on, right? Because if they're draining you, you're focusing on how to control them, right? And so we want to feel at peace. So what can you do this week to give yourself a little bit more peace? Love you. Bye.